very good evening and welcome to Biz First Review 360. Up first in your business news for the week, the much ambiguous fuel pricing formula that was used to revise the fuel prices during the past few months was presented to the general public for the first time by Minister of Finance and Mass Media Mangala Samarveera yesterday.
I
promised at the previous media briefing that I will present the fuel price formula. It is very simple. This is it. Maximum retail price equals V1 plus V2 plus V3 plus V4. This is the simple formula that we have been using since the 11th of May to formulate fuel prices on the 10th of every month. MRP is the maximum retail price. This is calculated using 4 factors. V1 is the cost incurred on unloading. It is the cost on barrels. The change in exchange rate is also considered here. V2 is the processing cost. This includes local harbour costs and costs incurred when there is wastage. This includes discounts to sales agents and storage costs. V3 is the administration costs. This includes costs for employees' allowance and depreciation costs as well. V4 is for taxation. This includes customs duties, port and airport development taxes, etc. The MRP is a combination of all of these factors.
Speaking at a media briefing, Verite Research said that of the promises made in the budget for the financial year 2018, the Sri Lankan government has only fulfilled 8%.
Budget Promises Beyond Parliament is a pioneering online platform that tracks the government record in delivering its annual budget promises. In 2018, the platform is tracking 38 such promises with a total value of 149,350 million rupees. The platform states that the government is either not doing what it is saying or not saying what it is doing for promises amounting to 60,200 million rupees. It was stated that the majority 59% of the promises are lagging and the others are either undisclosed, neglected or broken. It added that there is a significant mismatch between what is actually said and what is actually done. The platform was told that the National Budget Department does not monitor physical progress and they were asked to find out the financial reports from the ministry by themselves. The research revealed that the government's willingness to share information remains at a low of 26% on the tracked promises.
In an article under the heading Economy in Disarray, Banks Flourishing, Can This Be True? In the Daily FT, Prasad Edurisinghe highlights the issues faced by the banking sector.
The article says it is earlier reported that the growth in bank credit accelerated in August despite the tight credit and money conditions and rising non-performing loans in the banking sector. Sri Lankan banks in total have disbursed new loans worth Rs 700 billion during the first 8 months of this year, a growth of 10.9% compared to 524.9 billion rupees reported for the first 8 months of 2017. The NPAs of non-banking financial industry have been inclining for the last 12 months rapidly, and it was a clear indication and an early warning to say that the country's economy was not doing well. Subsequently, after a couple of days, it is reported non-performing loans, a key indicator of banking industry's asset quality, rose to 3.6% by the end of August from 3.4% in July and 2.5% at the end of 2017. It is said that during the first 8 months, the total non-performing loan volumes rose by 58% or by 94 billion rupees to 255 billion rupees. The report further said in August alone, the non-performing loans grew by 6.7% to 16 billion rupees compared to the growth of 4.7% or 11 billion rupees in July. The numbers show that banks have rescheduled some 155 billion rupees worth loans during the first 8 months so that their non-performing loans look smaller and the balance sheet more appealing. As per the data available for the last year, this is an increase of over close to 70% in rescheduled loans. Hence, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka is said to have estimated the likely NPA ratio at 5% by the end of August.
We now cross over for a short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Biz First Review 360. Welcome back. You're watching Biz First Review 360. Now back in our business news, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa has appointed a 3-member committee to develop a plan for the revival of the country's economy.
It comprises former officials of the Rajapaksa administration, Central Bank Governor Ajit Niwad Cabral, Secretary to the Prime Minister Samarasekara and Chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission Nalaka Godaheva. The record of these officials is questionable and played a role in the defeat of the Rajapaksas at the 2015 election. Ajit Niwad Cabral was under investigation for the controversial investments in Greek bonds costing the state losses of billions. The direct loss to the central bank from these questionable bonds was 1,257 million rupees. Nepotism was high. His sister Shiromi Wickramasinghe was a director within the Perpetual Group when Perpetual Treasuries Limited was awarded the primary dealer license. Shiromi Wickramasinghe also was CEO of Lanka Putta Development Bank, which invested more than 300 million in failed budget airline Mihin Lanka. Significant purchase of shares using EPF funds at higher prices at the time. He was accused of facilitating the appointment of directors to banks. Cabral, as head of the central bank, appointed PR consultants with higher cost. These incidents took place when Ajit Niwad Cabral was serving as governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Nalaka Godaheva was associated with others in the so-called pumping and dumping scandal amidst claims of price manipulation at the Colombo Stock Exchange. Godaheva was also to cause controversy with the so-called Krish project amidst allegations of graft. Godaheva, as the chief of the SEC, was also charged for misuse of funds which ended up for an event organized by Namal Rajapaksa. The case is ongoing. President Rajapaksa's reaction to the pumping and dumping scandal was to appoint Godaheva to the top slot at the SEC. 4 years into this government, the minister in charge of the subject of the SEC, the Ministry of Finance or the SEC themselves have not instituted legal action against anyone involved in the pumping and dumping scandal. These are the officials Mahinda Rajapaksa is apparently relying on to provide answers on an ailing economy. We'd like to remind the former president the mistakes that took place during his tenure and the mistakes that are taking place under the current Prime Minister. If this is the team that is being selected by the former president to realize the economic dream of the country, all we can do is to wish him good luck and all the best.
Transparency International Sri Lanka has alerted the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into large-scale fraud and corruption at Sri Lankan Airlines on possible corruption surrounding the procurement of an Airbus A350 aircraft by the national carrier.
The German publication Der Spiegel has on repeated occasions flagged the allegations of bribery and corruption in the procurement of Airbus aircraft. In a letter to the Commission in August this year, TISL highlighted that the aircraft manufacturer Airbus and its subsidiaries are under investigation in several jurisdictions for allegedly paying bribes in order to win billions of dollars of contracts. TISL believes these investigations are of a particular interest to the Sri Lankan people, given the fallout following the cancellation of Sri Lankan Airlines' planned purchase of Airbus A350 aircraft, which led to the state having to pay in excess of 17 billion as cancellation costs. Sri Lanka has slipped to the 85th position in the 2018 Global Competitiveness Index from 81st in the previous year. Out of the 12 broader pillars, Sri Lanka had improved in terms of infrastructure, health, ICT adoption, skills and market size, but lagged in the other factors such as institutions, macroeconomic stability, product market, labor market, financial system, business dynamism and innovation capability. In South Asia, India topped by being ranked at 58th, though it is a big slide from 40th under the old methodology last year. Bangladesh was 103rd, followed by Pakistan 107th and Nepal 109th. Sri Lanka Green Energy Projects gets 30 million euros French loan. A credit facility agreement for the French loan was signed on Wednesday. Sri Lanka will get a 30 million euros from France for a project to cut transmission losses at state utility Ceylon Electricity Board and lower the island's dependence on fossil fuels for electricity generation, the Ministry of Finance said. This is part of a $260 million project, Green Power Development and Energy Efficiency Improvement Investment Program, to improve energy savings by upgrading the island's transmission infrastructure with a smart electricity grid and smart metering.
Yesterday, Mangala Samaravira said the maximum retail price is the collection of 4 variables, namely V1, V2, V3 and V4. This is what Minister Mangala Samaravira had to say when journalists raised questions on the matter today.
Actually, I said the same thing, but I presented it for his preschool brain to understand. That is the formula. The sum of them all is included in V1, V2, V3 and V4.
If they want to increase fuel prices, they have enough excuses in this. They can say that the fuel evaporates and increase fuel prices. We can say that the oil was wasted in some way and increase the fuel prices. We also can see that this fuel price formula is completely wrong. It is only when the cost incurred on unloading is paid that we deal in dollars. This is where the loss incurred with the depreciation of the rupee lies. But this loss incurred due to the depreciation of the rupee is again included under V3 as administrative cost.
More than 40% of the cost of fuel is built of government taxes and so-called government expenses. The main reason for this increase of fuel price is the depreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee against the US dollar and the increase of government taxes.
After a government takes control of a country, they cannot present formulas to the people and escape for their responsibilities. The 100-day action plan or the UNP's election manifesto did not mention of any formula. They only promised to increase salaries, create 1 million jobs and reduce the prices of petrol and vehicles. They have crippled the economy. They are now trying to escape by presenting a formula to the people.
Mangala Samaraveera presented a price formula yesterday. No one understands this price formula. If the price of the fuel in the global market fluctuates, taxes should be adjusted to balance the cost burden. Ideally, when global prices of fuel increase, the tax percentage should be reduced. However, the government does not change its tax composition and along with losses incurred by CPC, transfer all burdens to the public.
And with that, we cross over to a short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Biz First Review 360. Welcome back. This is Biz First Review 360. Up next is our special segment, Speak Your Mind.
But at the moment, globally, the retail industry is facing problems because of the global economic crisis. Except in USA, you would find in all other parts of the world, it's biting. In China, for instance, you can see how the cost of living is affecting sales, and the fact that the local authorities have taken too much of debt on. You're finding in India how it has affected sales, affected the people. So most parts of the world at the moment, maybe for a year or so, will go through this phase. It's so even in Sri Lanka. You have, as you say, the limitations of money circulation, the interest rates, the non-performing loans going up, the fact that people are finding it a bit more difficult with the total global economic currency crisis means that retails are going through a difficult time, but within that there's a shakeout that's taking place, whether it's in Sri Lanka or others. So firstly, as you have said, we need, we have asked for a national policy on retail. So yes, let's sit down and see how we can help everyone from the village retailer upwards. But as you realize how the patterns are changing. So how do we help them? There are many ways you need help. First, you have to have credit. Secondly, you must ensure there's money in the hands of the people. And this is the challenge that all governments in the world are faced today. All of a sudden, in the last 6 months, economic climates have changed in a way that we have not anticipated. How are the governments ready? How are you going to face it? Well, we have one example like Thailand or Vietnam who can face it because they have become an export-oriented economy. To do business, you spend a fair amount of your time going through the bureaucracy. So that's, we are looking now of how we can change and make go very fast for ease of doing business. We have my statement, Dr. Harsha De Silva, who's working on it. Together with the development strategy, we are looking out at the export strategy, but make business easier. And next year, our local borrowings won't be as high as our foreign borrowings. And very soon, before end of November, hopefully we will start our development banking funding for the large companies, especially with emphasis on the export sector, of goods and services. We have to make those changes and make those changes fast. The countries that make the changes fast certainly will get through this crisis. So we are not the only ones who have this balance of payment problem. With the limited exports we make, we have to go in to ensure that we make the transformation, we make it fast. I know we have immediate problems. Let's face them together and let's use this crisis as an opportunity to go to a higher level and an opportunity to become a more dynamic economy than we are today.
Sri Lanka has recently crossed the $4,000 GDP per capita threshold. The opportunities of the sector will continue to expand. Tourist arrivals this year have crossed the 2 million mark with growth of 11.6%, creating new opportunities for the retail sector. The fiscal sector has long been the source of instability in the Sri Lankan economy. In fact, in 2017, by the end of last year, the government achieved a primary surplus for the first time since the 1950s, over 60 years ago, and this trend has continued in the first half of 2018, and we hope to increase this surplus at the end of this year. The monetary sector also has been stabilized with credit growth brought within target range and reserves improved significantly in spite of some debt repayments this year. As I've mentioned before, Sri Lanka is paying the largest ever debt repayment of nearly 1.9 trillion rupees this year, and the next 2 years also going to see some significant repayments with the bunching of our debt. Nearly 4 trillion rupees is to be paid in 2019 and 2020. But despite all this, the results of stabilization are being seen as inflation, for example, has fallen from 2.5 fallen to 2.5 in September this year, compared to the 8.6 inflation we had last year in September. The government's economic policy has been to reorient Sri Lanka towards a greater external focus, taking on international competition to drive competitiveness in our own economy. Again, the results are now materializing. In 2017, Sri Lanka achieved a record US $1.9 billion in FDI. In the first 7 months alone of this year, FDI reached US $1.35 billion, a 138% increase year on year. Exports reached a record US $11.3 billion last year and have grown a further 6.1 in the first 7 months of 2017. Admittedly, economic growth in 2017 was below potential, affected by some of the exogenous shocks referred to earlier. The other challenges has, of course, been the exchange rate. The recent depreciation of the rupee was largely due to external factors, as the US interest rate hikes, trade wars, and rising oil prices have resulted in global investors taking capital out of emerging markets like Sri Lanka. Nonetheless, from a policy perspective, government has taken all necessary measures to address the factors that are within our control. The minimum duty imposed on small-size vehicles and the introduction of market-determined fuel prices are key policies to address the two sectors that caused 70% of the increase in imports in 2018. In fact, in the first 3 months of this year alone, since the budget introduced a new pricing formula for vehicles, there were nearly 28,000 vehicles, under 1,000 cc vehicles, which was brought into the country virtually. As I said before, a tsunami of vehicles did start flowing in, and as a result, we have had to take certain measures to stop this flow. But these are all temporary measures. the measures to impose cash margins on vehicles and imports of selected high-volume, non-essential import items. But of course, unlike some of the newspaper reports, the government certainly has no plans to restrict imports on a permanent manner, and we certainly have no plans to go back to the closed economy of the 1970s, which we all remember far too well. These are temporary measures which have been taken, and these will be reviewed regularly.
Thank you very much for watching. That's it for Biz First Review 360 for today. For the News First team, I'm Charlotte Benedict. Take care and God bless.